When we at Real World Wildlife Seed came out with our bedding in a bag blend of native grasses, one of the most common questions we got was, will this work in a lower area that floods or a wetter site? And the answer to that really is no. The species that we used in our bedding in a bag are a lot more suited to an upland site. But we have been for several years now developing a switchgrass variety that will do well in bottomland sites, and finally are ready to bring that to market. We actually wanted to bring this to market a year ago, but last winter the weather was so mild that we didn't have an opportunity to test it in conditions with a lot of snow and wind and such to see how it would stand. But this winter that's not been the case. We've got a lot of bad weather, and I know of at least twice we've had winds over 40 miles an hour and several snows on our grass test plots, so that we got a good idea on how well these grasses are going to stand. Behind me here is a patch of cave-in rock switchgrass. It's kind of the standard among deer habitat gurus. It's probably the most widely planted variety of switchgrass there is for deer habitat. And we did have a drought last summer, and under normal conditions this switchgrass would be probably at least a foot to 18 inches taller than it is now. But still, we think that the Real World brand that we've developed is even better than this. Let's go have a look at it. Here we have the Real World switchgrass, and as you can clearly see, it's quite a bit taller than the cave-in rock we just looked at. And it went through the same drought conditions as the cave-in rock. In fact, both these patches were planted at the same time. But it's still 6 foot, and some of it's quite a bit more than 6 foot tall. But under normal conditions, you can add another foot to foot and a half, maybe even 2 feet to that, and it would be significantly taller than what you see here right now. But we really wanted to release this about a year ago, but last winter the weather conditions were so mild we didn't have the snow and high winds and such to really test it as far as standability, how it would react under those conditions, and would it stand up as you see it is here today. But the snow you see here on the ground was a real wet, heavy snow, and the grass did an excellent job standing up to that. We've had 3 or 4 snows on this stand actually this year, as well as a couple of storms that come through that had winds of 40 miles an hour or more. So it stood up to the winds and it stood up to the snow, and still standing great. So we're real pleased with it and happy to be releasing it this year. Now I know we're going to get a lot of people asking the question, which should I plant, the Real World switchgrass or the Real World bedding in a bag? And that's a question only you can answer, but there's a few things to consider. First of all, if your site is wet or floods occasionally, a lower spot, then you definitely want to go with the switchgrass. If you got an upland site, you're probably going to be better off with the bedding in a bag just because of the species that are in that. Now, one big difference in the two is the ease of planting of the switchgrass. The switchgrass is a real small, round, hard seed, very similar to like clover or alfalfa seed. It can be broadcast or planted with just about any planter. It can be frost seeded, in the late winter, early spring months. Real simple to plant. The bedding in a bag, it's a fluffier seed, and really the best way to plant that bedding in a bag is with a no-till drill. If you've got access to one and you've got an upland site, that's probably the way to go. However, if you don't have access to a no-till drill, this switchgrass will grow on an upland site as well. But that's just kind of a decision that you're going to have to look at your situation and make that call for yourself. But either way, we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes here. We're all about the side-by-side comparison. If you think that cave-in rock is the standard switchgrass that all deer hunters should use, then all we ask is that you maybe try a little bit of the Real World right next to it, because I promise you're going to see a difference. One of our goals is to have the very best habitat that we can have on our properties, and we're just sharing that information with you and giving you the opportunity to do the same with yours.